You know, being a minimum wage whore most of my life so far got me really thinking. When I was working at a fast food place known as McDonald's, I worked there for about a year and a half, and I only made minimum wage. And now I'm working at Kroger, making the same amount as it made over there, but more hours. And it's not as really degrading work as you think it is over at Kroger, because it's actually pretty decent, because we got the union and shit. But towards when McDonald's didn't have a union, didn't really have shit. They were just a company hiring anybody the fuck they wanted to, because they really never gave a shit who they hired. They could probably hire a murderer and they wouldn't actually give a shit. They could have hired a child molester and they wouldn't give a shit. They could hire a rapist. I mean, the list can go endless, and McDonald's really didn't give a fuck what they did. And now we got the whole strike going on where McDonald's workers are striking to get $15 an hour. Let that sink into you. $15 an hour for flipping burgers, taking money. Sure, it's a little degrading, which I mean, I when I was there, I thought that maybe I could make. We probably did deserve a little more raise at the minimum wage, not because of the stuff we did, but because you cannot live off of minimum wage. But just because your work is so degrading, you think you deserve $15 an hour? If people started making $15 an hour, do you think education would have been needed? If you're making $15 an hour at McDonald's, how well do you think education would be? You think people would still be going to college? You think people would still be trying to even make something of their life? Because a $15 an hour minimum wage would be fucking ridiculous. Because most teenagers would work there. Yeah, I get it. Maybe if you're over 18, you could deserve a little more when you work at McDonald's. But for 18, younger than 18, I do not think you should be making $15 an hour. Money like that can go to your head. Kids would be wasting their shit on so much. I think starting off as, I started working when I was 17. Making that much money actually taught me a few things about money. And I'm kind of glad about that. But now I can see minimum wage now is just ridiculous, and we probably deserve a little bit more. But I think there should be a certain age limit towards how much you have to make. Because I know when we have younger people at Kroger, they start off with a less amount than minimum wage, because once you're 18, you have to make that amount. But at McDonald's, they start you off at minimum wage automatically. So I guess there's a plus side with that. But like I was saying before, the whole $15 an hour, it's just ridiculous. Nobody is going to give you $15 just to flip a fucking burger. You get some pretty decent benefits, I suppose, in a way, but you have to be full-time. I think if you're working $15 an hour full-time, that would be a different story. But for part-time, where you're only working maybe 4 to 5 hours a shift, it's maybe more sometimes, give or take, depending how you are. And when I was working there, I was only working maybe 6 hours a shift. It was not that great. But that's why I left that place, is because of the hours wage. It was not because I wanted more money. It's because I was getting lousy hours at the minimum wage I was making. I needed something more, and I needed to get out of that dead-end job, because I was not going to get anywhere anyway. But I'm not trying to disrespect McDonald's in all way, because they were actually a pretty decent company to start off with, which I'll give them credit with that. But the whole subject of where McDonald's workers think they should be making more than $7.50, which is the minimum wage. It's either $7.40 or $7.50, I think, give or take. Either way, you think you should be making $15 an hour for flipping a fucking burger or taking somebody's money. It's pretty ridiculous. Even managers work there don't make as much money as you think they do. They make maybe, I think I was told, $1 or $2 more. I'm not exactly sure with that, but they don't make that much money as you think they do, and maybe they deserve a little bit more too. But going back to the whole minimum wage thing again, it's a pretty ridiculous thing, and I understand, in this economy, we're not really living off the right minimum wage, because back in the day, we could live off, this kind of money, which is pretty much what I learned when I was watching this kind of whole class system, is that back in the day we could live off minimum wage. Now, no. I think even if you want to live off minimum wage, you need more than one job, and give or take. If you're working more than one job, good for you, but if you're working one single job where the work is not even that bad, it's just kind of downgrade, degrading. I guess that kind of makes no sense in a way. I mean, the stuff they got you doing is pretty... It'll make you lose some self-esteem, but you're working for money, so why should you care? The stuff they got you doing is not so bad as you think it is. I mean, the worst thing I had to do was clean the women's restroom, but, you can't fight it. I think that's the most thing that really made me feel like I was downgraded. I think, I'm a guy, maybe I should not be in there, and there's actually a couple times where I scared a few people. It was pretty entertaining in a way, but still, they were surprised to see a guy was cleaning the restroom. But I did it because I was making the money, and that's how I lived. I lived off of that kind of amount of money, and I'm sure I didn't, like I said, I got less hours, but I was still making money where when I was a teenager, I could still, get the things I wanted, buy the shirt, buy the pants, afford things for my guitar. It's little things like that. I mean, what is other teenagers going to do besides, they can save it for a car, which is understandable. They can buy their license, which is understandable. They can pay for a road test, which is understandable. But they don't need like $15 an hour to go off and waste it on drugs, pay some guy to buy them alcohol, or to, just shit around and buy, 20 pounds of candy, in a way. I mean, you get the point. You shouldn't be making that much money if you are a teenager. I mean, the whole point of having a minimum wage job is to show you that you should probably go to school, get an education, or get certified in something, and move on with your life. You don't want to stay in one place, because it will slowly affect you in a way where you'll start to feel depressed, and you'll be like, what the fuck did I do with my life, and what is my life? There's some times where I was kind of playing over there, I'm like, what the fuck is my life? I need to get out of here. I've been, since maybe a month after I started working there, I knew I had to get out of there. I stayed a little bit more than what I actually planned to, but with hard work and dedication, you can get yourself out of there. It's not because the money you make. If you don't like working at McDonald's, don't work there, go find a better job. Factory workers, I don't know how much they make exactly, but they make a decent amount, and they have somewhat of a decent education, but still, if you got a high school diploma, you think you should be making $15 an hour. That high school diploma was free. I hope you realize that. You didn't have to pay a single penny to get that education you got for that diploma, unless maybe you went to a private school, which in that case you had to pay, but who goes to private schools really? Unless you are really high up on the chain, in upper class, or middle upper class, you wouldn't be really going to a private school. I myself am glad where I was, Like I said, I think with the amount of money you're making now as a teenager, it'll teach you a lesson. But $15 an hour for an adult at McDonald's, maybe you should have got yourself an education if you're still working at McDonald's at the age of 30. And I understand there's some people that can't really get jobs and they have an education, which I'll give them props with that. Maybe they deserve a little boost. But if you're an adult, no education, a high school diploma, and that's it, because you didn't want to go to college, you do not deserve $15 an hour. All I can say is, if anything sells through with this whole spiel with the whole strike on minimum wage, you're not going to get $15. You're maybe going to get $8, maybe $9, but anything above $10, yeah, right, good luck. You can keep on striking. And I think the government really doesn't give a fuck, because, they got an education, they make a couple figures a year, and they're just saying, fuck you, why should we do that? Unless you're really, the over age of 18 and can't really make something out of yourself. Which goes back to the whole 2 words I said earlier: hard work and dedication. You can achieve your greatness, and I myself am not really much of an example just yet. I mean, yes, McDonald's may open this opportunity for where I can go to work at Kroger because I knew to do a couple things then. They trained me at Kroger. Without McDonald's, I don't think I'd have got the job at Kroger because I wasn't very experienced. But even if you're starting off as a bag boy, like a friend of mine, he started off as a bag boy, and I know he knows what I'm talking about, which I'm not going to say name, just because it does not need it. But he knows that this hard work will get him somewhere eventually, and it actually looks pretty good on the resume that you worked somewhere like Kroger, I suppose. Or even McDonald's in a way. I mean, if you want to be a chef, I suppose, in a way, it's a good start to learn what the hell a grill is. It's not really teaching you much because everything's just kind of buttony, and you press a button and there's a timer, and that's that. But I mean, it shows you that fire hurts. It's kind of what I can say out of that. I mean, it shows that burns actually hurt. Most of the scars on my hands actually are from the burns from McDonald's. But this whole strike against minimum wage is just ridiculous. I suppose I kind of got off the topic a lot, but I think I got down pat where I was what I was actually saying. This whole strike isn't going nowhere. Just give up. And if you disagree with me, show me why you disagree. I think I kind of counteracted with both in a way. But, like I said, you have a reason that you think you should be making $15 an hour working at McDonald's, be my guest and tell me. Because I can automatically just counteract you, because, like I said, I worked there about 1.5 years. So I like to see what you got. Anyway, I'm Kniggets, and you've just been ranted. Good night.